All things eventually come to an end, and jobs are of course no different. Now, as an engineer working in tech, I'm no stranger to layoffs. It's just the first one that I've ever been a part of myself. I look at it more so as a blessing than a curse. I've been very lucky over the years. I've made a lot of money. I've got a lot of stocks from jobs. I'm okay, dividends are paying enough that every single month it's almost as if I still have a job basically. The last time that this happened to me, I left on my own, and I made a video about it, and you guys seemed to have liked it because it was more of a real world experience, a real world vibe, a connection between you and I. I did this when I was having trouble in college, high school, all it be, and now we continue to do it now with the latest event of my life that has gone wrong. My spirits are very high. I'm not upset, but with that being said, let's reflect on my time with the United States government. And while I talk about that, you're going to enjoy some very okay gameplay. This is going to be kind of a sporadic video, kind of a lot of rant, kind of a lot of just getting things off my chest. Before we go back to chronicleize my time with the government, which began in 2022, we're going to just talk about my opinion of the current state of affairs. Unless you are Russian or you are one of the dumbest people on the planet, it is no surprise to anybody when I say this, that the United States is not in a good place right now. In my adult life, this is the worst we've ever been. In my life, period, this is the worst we've ever been. Like, I remember being a little kid when 9/11 happened, looking out the window, I looked at everything going on, and was like, oh my god, this is bad. And then everything that led up after that. But what happened after that was the United States came together when we became better as a country over the course of the next 15 years. But these last couple months, or really these last couple years to be completely honest, we've been free falling. We really have. This really goes back to 2019. 2019, Trump began printing unlimited money, did lots of weird things. It destroyed our economy. We were about to go into a recession regardless if the pandemic had happened or not. It's just the pandemic kind of saved him because he was able to push blame off. Then Biden shows up. Everything happens with him that happens. Then we get the Inflation Reduction Act. Then things start getting better. And ever since like late 2023, we have been on the come up. Things have been getting better. But for the last 100 some odd days, things have been really, really bad. Elon Musk and Trump are hell-bent on destroying not just the United States, but our economy, our place in the world, our status in the world, as well as the world economy. They are just full-fledged, just let's destroy everything we can before we get out of here. Politically, I don't really have a straight-leaning left or right. I would say I'm more moderate, more libertarian. I just call out bad shit when I see it. And honest to God, Elon and Trump are the worst possible people we could have had for the president. I'm not saying Kamala would have been a better job, but Elon and Trump definitely should not have been there. The last 100 days, it's been very difficult being a government employee. But before we get into that, we gotta go back to 2022, when things were awesome. As you might recall, in December of 2021, I left my first major job at a FANG company. And that job, I honestly hated every bit of it. And then I left, about 2 weeks of applying, I got an offer from the United States government. So I joined Booz Allen Hamilton as a contractor. Yes, that Booz Allen Hamilton, where he who shall not be named worked. It's actually kind of funny because if we mentioned him in our Slack or anything, we actually got in trouble. It was the silliest thing ever. 2022 hits, I get started in late January. One thing leads to another. I'm doing my security clearance stuff, which honestly, I'm really relieved to not have to do that anymore. It's been so frustrating year in and year out. Every single time they got to update something, and it's monotonous. But I was going through the security clearance for the first time then. I was nervous out of my mind, calling everybody I thought would give me a good reference, freaking out because every job I had had up to that point ended abruptly because I honestly crashed out and just left. I'm very big in that these companies don't care about you, so you don't care about these companies type mindset. It was almost 3 months of actually working before I could actually do any work at all. Because obviously I was on my interim security clearance. I had a government computer at this point, but I wasn't able to do actual work, and I was doing all this weird training stuff, which that was the first thing, I guess, that was somewhat of a red flag. It's been like that with every president, so that's not necessarily a Biden issue. I remember opening my first ticket. The very first thing I had to do was correct an error within the database, and I was freaking out. I had no idea what to do. Little did I know that this specific ticket type was going to become my favorite one. That day it took me like 2 hours to get that ticket done. And then now I had optimized my workflow to the point that 2-hour ticket became like a 2-minute ticket. I helped decommission systems that year across the board because we were upgrading to cloud servers and just a whole new family of systems. So that was a lot of experience. I never really wanted to go into network engineering because I got hired as a system admin, but that kind of pushed me in a different direction where I was like, you know what? I kind of like this. I kind of like this right now. Everything went smoothly. And then June of 2022 came. I moved from Lexington, Kentucky to El Paso, Texas. I still am not the biggest fan of El Paso, but I know I'm going to be here a little bit longer, which we'll get to later. But they were very chill about it. They let me take all the time in the world. They didn't make me take PTO or anything. It was very nice. And then everything went smooth and swimmingly. I got all the work done I could, and I would just get off work. I'd go to the gym. I'd go run. I'd go walk around, explore the new city I'm in. Life was good. And then that December, I almost actually got fired. So there was this woman, or I'm not going to call her a woman because that's paying too much respect. She was a bitch. She was a bitch and a half. So we had this thing called Jira, which if you're not in tech, Jira is kind of like your to-do board. You'll get assigned your work through there, and then you update it with comments and everything else about what's going on with you in it. And then one thing leads to another, and I put a file inside it that I had made completely on my own. It had no sensitive information, or in the government we call it PII. It had none of that. She reported it for PII, and the PII specialist did not go through it to verify that there was any PII in it. There was literally nothing. It was just a dead, bare bone skeleton of how I wanted to make a database. I had always planned to leave on my own terms, and when I did leave, I was going to burn every bridge I possibly could, and I was going to just completely tell her off and let her have a piece of my mind, because at this point it wouldn't matter anymore. But then today when I got laid off, or well, today as of the time I'm recording this, it is Thursday, May 15th. When I got laid off, I lost access to everything. They called me and said, hey, you got to go return your equipment, go to the courthouse, or not the courthouse, go to the government building you were assigned to and just turn it in or you're going to jail. I was like, yes, sir, aye, Captain. 2023 wasn't exactly an eventful year within the government. We passed the PACT Act, which that was incredibly difficult because every branch of the government, it didn't matter if you were DOD, Veteran Affairs, Homeland Security, everybody was all hands on deck for the PACT Act because it got passed in like August, September, and we had 2 weeks, right, to get that up and running. So people got pulled in from all across the government who had nothing to do with the Veteran Affairs, and we were all told, hey, you're helping out, you're making this is your job now for the next however long. So we had to make this, really and truly the only way you can describe it is this half-assed system, and I'm honestly surprised that we were even able to get it working in the time that we did because nobody knew exactly what they were doing for this. You had to not just make the database, you had to make the VBMS tabs for it, you had to make the SDR, so there was so much, and I had no idea what I was doing, neither did anybody on the team. There was like maybe 4 people that actually worked at the VA that was helping on this. Like, it was rough. It was very rough. 2024 was when things started really getting kicked into overdrive. In January of 24, they began allowing me to start training people. I wasn't a lead because I was a subcontractor, and then the government has their own internal leads. So I, at this point, was just acting as a lead, but not really a lead. It was really nice training people up because I met a lot of cool people that I would have never talked to otherwise. And honestly, that was probably the most rewarding part of the job. 2024 was the first year that I started traveling like crazy. I think I went 5-6 different places, 3 different countries overall. And once again, the government was completely cool with it. Pretty much unlimited PTO. If I wanted to go, let's say like next week, I decide I want to go to Las Vegas for the week. This entire week, I could have worked like extra hours throughout the day, right? And instead of getting paid overtime, I would have the opportunity to get it as flex, so I could leave Thursday and Friday just by working an extra couple hours a day. It was insane. I honestly don't know if the government's going to keep it that way, but that was just a crazy time to be alive. And then out comes towards the middle of 2024, I start getting a little frustrated. Things start going really, really bad. This is when the United States election was really starting to pick up. We were getting pulled in all directions. Politicians were trying to get us to do nefarious things. The news outlets were reaching out asking for our opinions on every little thing. Like, I remember, I'm not going to name the news outlet because, you know, confidential stuff, but I remember getting reached out to, and I didn't answer them because I wasn't legally allowed to, but they asked me how I thought a Trump presidency might affect government employees, and in my head I was like, none. Why would it affect us at all? And then things started coming up. He unfortunately got Elon Musk involved, and Elon Musk is a foreign adversary. His whole thing is just to collapse the United States so that his companies can get all the federal contracts. And once Elon showed up and started talking about mass layoffs, I was like, whoa, hold up there, buddy. And then they talked to all of us and they said, okay, this is only going to be the internal government employees. your subcontractors, you are safe. This is not going to affect you. So I was like, okay, I guess that's not that big a deal. And then that leads us into about the 3/4 point. This is where Biden drops out of the presidential election, Kamala comes up, and then there's one giant big hands-on thing about how this could end up a constitutional crisis. This could end up us having to work overtime if XYZ happens, because we didn't know why Biden dropped. We really didn't. We didn't know if he was dying. We didn't know if something was going wrong. Nobody knew. So we had to be all hands on deck, ready to pounce and roll if something was to come up that needed us to do something at a moment's notice. But luckily that goes pretty smoothly, and this leads us into October. October is when the first big hiccup for me within the government comes. I am once again asked by a politician to do something nefarious. I say no. The politician gets very angry at me and makes some weird tweet. Outside of the context, if you didn't know what was going on, it just looks like they were mad as usual. But if you knew what was going on, it was like, okay, they're mad at the team. What is going to go on with this? And then fast forward to November, a couple of weeks, Trump becomes president. This politician is now celebrating like, oh my God, we won. We're getting all these people out. And then another thing happens, which is just blowing my mind. We hit January, Trump gets inaugurated, and then they decide they're going to destroy the United States government. Like, I'm not even talking policies. The tariffs are hurting us enough. But, like, why were they dismantling the government? They say there's a lot of bloat, but we were understaffed. We were understaffed like crazy. We were working insane hours. My shortest work week was like 65, 70 hours. I'm not necessarily upset to be losing those amount of hours, but like, I don't understand how they can say efficiency is a problem when we were getting assigned more work than we had people to do. And it was just an endless battle of trying to get things done within our SLAs, our time frames, without getting in trouble by going over. It was an absolute nightmare. And honestly, at this point, I was beginning thinking of quitting and just walking out. No 2-week notice, just wipe my hands and be done with it. So I started applying for jobs aggressively. And early March, I get a job offer, I accept it, and I was going to delay it just until my period of performance was over with the government, which coincidentally was May the 18th, and I get laid off May the 15th. So like, either way, like, this was going to be my final week. Like, on May the 16th, I was going to say, hey, I'm done, I'm out. So it's kind of funny that it worked out this way, where I get laid off the day before I was going to leave, because now it's not going to look bad that I didn't give a 2-week notice because I got laid off. So what's next for me after all of this, you might be wondering? First off, if you made it this far, thank you for listening to my rant. But what's next? The new position is a DevOps engineer still, so I'm just going to be chilling, doing my thing. But I am going to be a little more wary from this point on about being a single job holder. I am thinking mighty seriously about getting a second job and doing that overemployed stuff, just so that if a layoff happens, it genuinely doesn't matter. I am genuinely unaffected. It was just a blessing in disguise that all this worked out the way in which it did. In addition to starting that, I am going to make a full-fledged effort to YouTube again. Like, I've been kind of half-assing it, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'll be doing a YouTube short like 3-4 times a week, and then maybe one video a week if I'm lucky. I just kind of let work take over. And honestly, at this point, I'm seeing the fruits of my labor were not warranted. They didn't appreciate it. So I think I'm going to spend more time on my own stuff from here on out. Like, my main job is obviously going to be doing the work I do day to day, but my main focus is going to be YouTube. If I have to stop doing work for the day to finish editing a video, I'm going to do that. If something happens and I can make a YouTube short off it real quick, I'm going to jump out of the work queue and just do that. So at the end of the day, it's like what Dr. Seuss said. Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. The government was the perfect transition job for me, going from a kid to an adult, moving halfway across the country, and everything in between. I could not have asked for a better job. I could not have asked for a better team. And like I said, I'm not the only one that got laid off. There was mass layoffs across the entire Department of Defense today. $5.1 billion worth of contracts were eradicated. And now there's rumors that they're going to start cutting off soldiers as well, which is just absolutely insane. I don't know if as a country we're going to survive. So it's not the end of the world. It's a weird situation. We are truly living in historical times. And I feel like most people don't actually recognize that right now. But this could turn into an hour solo podcast of me just rambling about how I hate the government now, this, that, and the other. I think it's time that I buy an Air Force hat and a Vietnam veteran hat and just say, yep, fuck the government all day long, baby. I'm not gonna actually do that, but I finally understand now why you never find a veteran who has anything good to say about the government. And it really sucks because no matter how you split it, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Tea Party, I mean, Styrofoam Party, whatever you want to call yourself these days, none of these people are our friends. At the end of the day, they're all here to destroy something. It's just whether or not you're going to be affected by their destructive path. That's what's going to be, the thing you need to worry about. Otherwise, it's just another day, another president, another, initiation to fail the country. We will never truly have a good president. I think those days are long gone. It's been JFK probably was the last one that was any good. So with that, ladies and gentlemen of the interweb, I bid thee a farewell. If you enjoyed this life rant, let me know in the comments down below, because I am open to doing more of these, because I'm going to be just throwing content out at you like it's 2016 and I'm an unemployed 18-year-old again. But with that being said, y'all, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, try not to die. If you were affected by these layoffs, let me know in the comments down below. We'll make it through it. It's just, things are real tough right now for everybody, not just tech workers.